Konnichiwa, annyeonghaseyo, ni hao, ne hao, suasde, chakapang, namaste, assalamu alaikum, kumusta, and aloha. Welcome to Team Book Bites. I'm Don. I'll be your host for today's program. I want to thank y'all for watching. We have another great program featuring library folks from across Los Angeles Public Library who will be sharing some of their favorite teen books by and about the AAPI diaspora in honor of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We have a wide range of books for y'all, from heart-pounding romance to deep family secrets to Yay Area sports tales and more, which makes sense because us AAPIs, we represent a really diverse group of folks. We carry and cultivate cultures from nations that span a third of the world. Those 10 greetings that we open with, they represent only some of our many perspectives. So all of these books, they're available through our library, either digitally or like as an actual book that you can request through our catalog and pick up at one of our 38 open branches across the city. And after you watch this program, we have more suggestions on the teen web section of lapl.org. So let's dig into some books. So first up, we have Camille from the Benjamin Franklin branch in my family's old stomping grounds, Boyle Heights.
Hi Don, Happy Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month to everyone. The book that I read that I really loved was Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. It's about a young girl named Azumi. Azumi has always wondered who her father was. She's always dreamt of meeting him, knowing where she came from, and being able to speak proudly of who she was. Her mother claimed that she never knew his name, much less where he came from or where he lives. So it's such a surprise to her to find information about him and realizing that her mom did know who he was, that he was in fact a fellow student studying abroad from Japan while she was studying at Harvard. And not only that, she's surprised to find out that he is the Crown Prince of Japan. Her world gets turned upside down. Suddenly she's traveling to Japan and finds herself in this world of designer dresses and Rolls Royces, of palaces and parties filled with dignitaries and diplomats. She's thrown into language classes, etiquette lessons, and culture classes. And there's just so much for her to learn as a princess. It's completely overwhelming. And every movement that she makes is accompanied by her handsome but brooding bodyguard and a rabid paparazzi. But she's finally getting to meet the family that she's never known before. Aunts, uncles, cousins, who are sort of princes and princesses, and even her grandparents, who are the emperor and empress of Japan. But life as a princess is not all that it's cracked up to be. When in California, she never feels like she's American enough. And in Japan, she definitely doesn't feel Japanese enough. The tabloids print all sorts of sensational stories about her. Her cousins seem to hate her, and she starts to feel like she's an embarrassment to her dad. How will Azumi ever learn to deal with her new role, make her father proud, and be a true daughter of Japan? If you love The Princess Diaries, you'll want to check out this book and see if Azumi ever finds her happily ever after.
This sounds like so much fun, Camille. Thank you for sharing this. I mean, especially as we're heading into the summer months, this feels like kind of like a perfect like summer like barbecue or like beach read.
Who wouldn't love a princess story? And it's such a great modern take on this traditional trope. I really identify like how Izumi always struggled with like her identity of being Asian American, of having to deal with her Japanese heritage as well as her American identity. And there's a little romance in there for all you romance fans.
This sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Camille.
You're welcome.
All right, so next up, we're going to have Joanna from Central Library.
Hi, Don. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thanks, Joanna.
So I start my book talks off with a question. So Don, I know you just left, but I hope you're thinking about this question off screen. But to all of you, I'm going to ask, what kind of stories do you like? Do you like reading about real life people like a documentary that treats its subject with respect and with empathy? What about sports stories that includes descriptions of gameplay with quick perspective shifts between sideline announcers, spectator reactions, and on-the-court action that captures the emotion and drama so well that it doesn't feel like you're reading about a game, it feels like you're there watching it. Well, you can find all these stories and more in Dragon Hoops by Jean Luen Yang. In this graphic novel, Yang chronicles his experiences of documenting a high school basketball team at the high school that he worked. Remember, real people, real high school, actual things happened. This is about the Bishop O'Dowd Dragons, and it was their efforts to win the state championship title that has for years eluded them that takes place with that has the most action of this book. But you'll also get the inclusion of race and ethnicity as part of the personal histories of the players, the coaches, even Yang's, and all of this is set within the context of basketball's many legacies. So all these components are woven together to support the theme that inspiration and bravery isn't bestowed, but built from the love and support of the people around us. And this is best summarized by the halftime speech that Jean Yang gives during the championship game. And it goes like this. When you step out into that court, no matter how prepared you are, you don't really know if you're going to win or lose. But you step out anyway. And maybe those of us in the audience hope that watching you take that step will inspire us to do the same thing. So maybe in reading this book, we can be inspired too. Dragon Hoops by Jean Luen Yang.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I do agree that stories that center empathy and sort of like this mix of all the whole range and the whole spectrum of these emotions, it really is like those are things that I really treasure. My kid also absolutely loves this book. And there's something else that I feel like maybe you can refresh my memory. This book it takes place close to home, right? Like it's in our state of California, right?
Yeah, it's very close. So it's within the state. We can look up all of these players' names and find out what they're doing now. It is pretty amazing. But I think it's also important why he put so much empathy into that, because these are real kids and you can sense that as you're reading the story as well. What I also love too, and you didn't get to mention in the book talk, is like the author himself, before really getting into this book and learning the story and the history of basketball, hated sports, hated basketball especially, didn't get it, didn't understand it. But he learned a love of the game through following this amazing and this special team.
I totally agree. This is like such a great book that sort of bridges all these different aspects. Thank you so much, Joanna.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So next great book, we are going to be hearing from Ruma from Sunland Tahunga.
My name is Ruma Gonzalez. I am Asian Indian American. I will be talking about the book Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know by Samira Ahmed. It tells a compelling story of two young women from different centuries who become connected. Khayyam, the young heroine of the book, named after famous Persian poet Omar Khayyam. She is an American, French, Indian, Muslim teenager, is trying to get into college for her art history while researching how Alexandra Dumas and Delacroix might have had a connection in the past. Her boyfriend has just ghosted her. she unexpectedly encounters a young man in Paris named Alexander Dumas, who is the sixth grandson of the original Dumas. And the two begins to spend time together and learn about the past. Meanwhile, in the 19th century, we learn the story of Lila, a young woman who was favored in a harem and who struggled to keep her true love a secret for the sake of her own safety. Khayyam begins to make connections through her research to Lila and some historical figures, introducing Delacroix, Dumas, and Lord Byron, whom she may have been connected to. Beside this plot of literary history, art history, and mysteries, we saw the day-to-day life of a teenager who is struggling to know her identity and her place in the world. In the opening statement of the novel, Khayyam states, "She is not a blank page of passport. Everyone gets to stamp a label of their choosing. She wants to be heard. She wants to leave her traces in this world. She wants to follow her own path, to create her own story. She wants you to know her name." Just like Lila, who wants to take control of her own life and make her own choices, but she lives at the world dominated by manpower. And she was no choice but keep her silence, bow her head, and passionately endure the hand life dealt to her. I really enjoyed this book. It was so well written and such a fun read. I loved how feminist and strong Khayyam was, and how she felt sympathy for Lila and was determined to find a way to tell her story and to break away from history. Both of the female characters were great, and we saw them struggle to determine their relationships with the male characters. There was some usual a love triangle. I enjoyed it. One of the reasons this book is a great read is that it is a mix of mystery, social, and cultural commentary, and a coming of age teenage romance. Khayyam is consumed with desire to bring her true story to light and prove to the world that history is full of fascinating and important women who have been overshadowed by men. This book is absolutely brilliant. It is fast paced, fun, interesting, and full of feminism, which I loved. This book is available, ebook, and you may borrow it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roma. This sounds absolutely fascinating.
It is extraordinary. The two things, history and novel together, it is the rare fiction, the two. And she researched so much history, and it is incredible.
Yeah, it sounds so...
She do the author. I really appreciate that. It's incredible job she did it. It's a resources are very credible resources she put it, and it's astonishing. It's a great to read, and it is the beginning of the era may be two, fiction and history together, side by side. It is so much connected together. It's
Well, it sounds-
valuable information.
I mean, it's like a combination of so much knowledge that you can gain as well as just fun. So this sounds like a perfect read. So thank you, Uma.
Yeah, whereas teen know about the past and present, the history, and it's fun. It's how compare they both, and especially always we used to in the past female was neglected, their voice.
Right.
Yeah, there's also teenage, especially teenage female woman, young woman. That is incredible.
Well, thank you very much, Ruma. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Cathy from Los Feliz.
Hi, I'm Cathy from Los Feliz, and this is quite different than the romantic things that we've had before on this program. This particular book is about the Philippines, about an Americanized young man. Jay's cousin, June, is dead. He had no funeral. The family is silent. What happened? With this, 17-year-old Jay, an Americanized son of a Filipino nurse and a Caucasian oncologist, is spurred into a journey of his Philippine-born cousin's mysterious death. Jay was also born in the Philippines and grew up in a close relationship with his gentle and funny cousin June before immigrating to the United States with his family. Jay became more interested in Americanized life as a high school student and allowed June to drift away. Now Jay rereads June's letters and feels ashamed he did not respond to him. Unexpectedly, Jay gets an anonymous DM showing a picture of June and the words, "Jay did nothing wrong." The context of this novel is the real-life drug war of President Rodrigo Duterte. According to some news accounts, between 5,000 and 20,000 citizens have been killed without warrant or by police or vigilantes in the past few years. Some Filipinos feel like it's for the greater societal good. Others feel the policy ignores serious poverty, lack of social mobility, and murder is murder. Jay decides to go to the Philippines to investigate. His parents allow him on the condition that Jay stay with his uncle, Tito Manning. Tito Manning is also June's father and the local police chief. Before Jay's trip, his dad tells Jay to honor the extended family's wishes and not to bring up June's death. Of course, Jay has other plans. In the course of his stay, Jay discovers various narratives of June's disappearance, that Jay ran away from Tito Manning's house, that he started using shabu, a cheap form of meth, and that June was killed in the streets. With the help of Jay's cousin, Grace, and his friend Mia, Jay finds the horrendous truth out about June's death. The story examines themes such as regret, loyalty, guilt, post-colonialism, and the difficulty of straddling two cultures. Jay learns that the world is more morally ambiguous than he ever thought possible. The novel gives a rich glimpse into Filipino society, landscape, foods, and culture. I highly recommend this book. This novel is a 2019 National Book Award finalist. The author, Randy Rebay, was born in the Philippines and raised in the Midwest. He currently teaches English at a local San Francisco high school. With that, I want to say thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for sharing this book, Cathy. This book was one of my favorite books that I read last year.
Oh yeah.
That the main character, Jay, like a lot of because we're seeing so much of the Philippines through his perspective,
yes.
Like, it really reminded me of like the experience of a lot of my friends who were similarly born in the Philippines and had spent a number of years of their childhood growing up here as well. So it's a very, very interesting perspective.
Yes, very heartfelt and very very current with the drug wars and all.
Right. Yeah. It's a very, very contemporary novel. Well, thank you very much, Cathy. I really appreciate
pleasure.
it. Awesome. So next up, we have Kelly from Studio City.
Hello. My name is Kelly. I'm from the Studio City branch. I'm the young adult librarian, and I want to recommend Shadow the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Shadow the Fox is the first book in a fantastic trilogy. This is a Japanese mythology-inspired fantasy series. Shadow the Fox starts off the series with Yumeko, a half kitsune who was raised in a temple and sheltered from the outside world. In Japanese folklore, kitsune are intelligent foxes that possess paranormal abilities that increase as they get older and wiser. Sorry. The temple safeguards a piece of an ancient scroll that can summon the great Kami dragon, who can grant any wish to the summoner. This gives the summoner unimaginable power, since whatever they wish, it has a chance to reshape the world. When the temple is attacked by demons, Yumeko escapes with a piece of the scroll, setting her off on her journey to get the scroll to safety. Along the way, she meets a caged demon slayer, Tatsumi, who is also after the scroll. Yumeko convinces him to protect her on her journey, lying about the fact that she has a part of the scroll in her possession. This is just a fun, action-packed trilogy. I just love the characters, especially Yumeko. She's cunning, she's strong, and just amazing. I honestly read this book in a day. I couldn't put it down. I had to drop all my responsibilities, but it was just that great, and I highly recommend it. If you are a fan of anime like I am, you'll be used to the Japanese terminology, but if you're not so sure, it doesn't matter. There's a great glossary in the back of the book for you to use. I highly recommend this #OwnVoices read if you're looking for adventure, a slow burn romance, Japanese mythology, and just fun, intriguing characters.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. I'm glad that you mentioned anime because so I'm partway through this book, and there was some like anime and like manga that came to my mind. Do you think there are like fans of specific manga or anime titles that would also like this book?
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot now.
Okay, I'll throw one out. Because the one that came to my mind was the current one, like Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Demon Slayer one. Because that one is also like a period one.
I always want to think like Dragon Ball Z almost, because that whole like get all the balls to get the dragon. It's kind of like this. They got to get the pieces of the scroll to get the big dragon. So that's what like always comes to mind. But yeah, you're right with that one too. Yeah.
It feels like there's a lot of like classic manga. Like I feel like a lot of fans of like classic manga would also like love this book.
Oh, it's reading anime. Or manga. In like more words, not pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Use the mental pictures though.
But I like love manga and love anime, so don't ever put those down either.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Next up, we're actually going to be hearing from one of our many teen volunteers in the system. We have Genesis, who is going to be sharing a recommendation.
Hi. The book I would be recommending is Frankly in Love by David Yoon. The main character in this book is Frank Lee, which is his American name, and Song Min Lee, which is his Korean name. Nobody uses his Korean name, not even his parents. Frank is in his senior year of high school. Frank's parents want him to date a Korean girl. The problem with that is he has fallen in love with a white girl named Britt, but he has a Korean friend named Joy Sung who is in the same situation. So to please their parents, they have a fake relationship. But things didn't plan out the way he thought they would. The book is a lovely book with well-thought-out characters and amazing friendships. This book is about romance, but it also looks into racism that Frank faces from his family, from his home life, about what his parents believe about interracial relationships, and also from people outside his family. The book is also about identity, not exactly knowing how to identify yourself, as Frank is Korean but was raised in California. He doesn't exactly know where he belongs. I think this is a very fascinating book that you should definitely read.
Awesome. Thank you, Genesis. I'm curious, like, are there any other books that you've read that are like this, that you feel like, you know, if you've read this sort of book, then you would also like Frankly in Love?
I think the trope in itself isn't a lot of the trope about fake relationships isn't a lot, but the thing about this book is it dives into a lot of racism, and that's a quality that I don't really see in YA books that I could actually think of to recommend to people.
Right. That also makes it kind of stand out a lot, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Genesis. I really appreciate you taking the time to share this.
No problem.
All right, so next up, we have Danica from Silver Lake.
Hi, guys. Historical fiction is fascinating and educational. Stacey Lee also makes it adventurous and fun. From the tales of the Old West to the aftermath of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, her main characters are formidable and take chances, in life as well as in love. The Downstairs Girl takes the reader to 1890s Atlanta, a time after slavery has been abolished, Jim Crow laws were being enacted, and the suffragist movement was in full swing. Protagonist Jo Kwan is essentially invisible. An American-born Chinese orphan, she can't be a citizen and can't even legally rent an apartment. Raised in a former abolitionist's hidden tunnel, Jo has been taught everything she knows in secret, relying on an old dictionary for English and her elderly father figure, old Jim, for the rest. I was immediately drawn into Jo's story. I wish I could tell you more, but truly, I'd risk giving you spoilers right from the start. The themes covered in The Downstairs Girl mirror current events, from equitable voting rights in Georgia to journalistic integrity, to the differences of privilege between communities of color and class. And the book does not shy away from the very real pain and suffering those issues bring up. There is also a lot of joy, fancy hats, friendship, and like I said, love. I wholeheartedly recommend this book. And really all of Stacey Lee's work. Her latest, The Luck of the Titanic, just came out this month, and I am next in the queue for it through the library's ebook collection on Overdrive. I cannot wait.
Awesome, Danica. Thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
This is like an overabundance of like great books to be reading. I mean, this one, I think it's so especially interesting because I really can't think of that many books that talk about like an Asian perspective in the South, like especially at this time period as well.
Yeah, that's Stacey Lee's specialty is coming from an Asian Chinese perspective on all the stories of America that she writes about. It's I can't recommend her work enough. And Downstairs Girl is truly an exceptional piece of writing.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. Thank you, Dan.
Well, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. So taking us home, we're going to have Joanna once again.
With another graphic novel and another question to start off my book talk. Oh, here, let me move over here. And the question is, what room do we have in our lives for fairy tales? Well, for the characters in this book, for Tian and his mother, that's what they share every evening. They read together a book of fairy tales so that his mother, Helen, can practice her English. But Tian isn't sure how to talk to his mom beyond that, especially to tell her that he's gay. In The Magic Fish by Chang Lingyuan, you'll experience how all the characters navigate between two different worlds. Whether we're in the fairy tale world, you'll hear the vast societal distance between the palace kitchen and the palace ballroom. For Helen, it's the worlds between the country that she had to flee from and her new home, learning a different language and seeing her son grow up with a vastly different experience than she did. And for Tian, it's his school and home life. School, he has great friends, but also is starting to navigate a new crush. And then at home, he's still not quite sure how he can get his parents to understand what he's going through. This is a beautiful graphic novel. I'm going to be able to show some of the pictures there. Come for the beautiful and stunning artwork, and you'll be able to see Cinderella and the Little Mermaid in ways that you never had thought of or imagined before. So you can come for that, but you can also stay for the realization that stories do connect us, and happily ever after really can be possible. And that's The Magic Fish.
Thank you so much, Joanna. These are not one, but two fantastic graphic novel recommendations. And I think that's a really great idea to close out on, this idea of like fairy tales. Some of the earliest stories that we hear and how that can sort of help bridge all these sort of connections that we can make in life.
Absolutely. Wait, I need to show more art. Hold on.
Yeah, please,
Let me
please.
show more of the art in here. So we have, it's just amazing.
Yeah, this is a book that you can just sit there and just pour over the artwork alone.
I know.
It is.
For sure, there's so many entryways to this book. That's all.
Well, thank you, Joanna. And thank you to all of our friends that came through and recommended all these great books. And thank you for checking us out. Please join us again next month for Teen Book Bites on Monday, June 28th at 3 p.m. when we'll be celebrating Pride Month with great LGBTQIA+ authors and lit. And as always, don't forget to tune in to the Los Angeles Public Library's YouTube and Facebook Live channels for Teen-tastic Tuesday programs at 4 p.m. most Tuesdays, like tomorrow, when we'll feature a talk with writer Sarah Kuhn about her new book, From Little Tokyo with Love. So many thanks to our teens and librarians for sharing these books with us today. And I want to thank you again for watching. Jane, ciao ka, zaijian, bye bye, dia hawi, chakaban, namaste, Allah hafiz, ingat, and aloha.